if spirituality is only limited to our private insights and our private moments of revelation and our experience, as wonderful and sublime as that can be at times, I think it's limited unless it starts to come and sort of overflow into the mode of being that we come from in our daily lives, in the way we relate with the world. Because, as soon as you get up from your meditation cushion or out of your bed, the whole world is relationship during the day. And I don't mean only relationships with other human beings. It includes that, of course, but the relationship with your environment, with your job, with your home life, with those who have children or those who have lovers, or your relationship with friends, relationship with the immensity of life itself. So much of life is being in relationship. Even when we start to see that the fundamental ground of our being is the fundamental ground of all being, in that sense, in that strict sense, that we transcend the conventional notion of a relational way of being in the world. But we also have a very ordinary, relative, human way of being in the world, and that is to be in relationship almost all of your waking moments. Even if you spend most of your waking moments alone, there's the relationship with each and everything you do, and the way you do it, and what you bring to it. I always felt, I don't know about you, but I always felt that it was just innately important, the way that our mode of being in the world, because we do have such an effect. I was always very appreciative that in the tradition that I trained in, the spiritual tradition of Zen, there is a real emphasis on this point. I mean, to such an extent that I think sometimes it can become almost overly ritualized. A lot of rituals in the different spiritual and religious traditions are actually ways of engaging in a moment of life where you are conscious and aware enough to realize that you're actually touching upon the sacred. So your awareness burns bright and deeply enough so that even something that's quite ordinary, an ordinary task, takes on the sense and the feel and the recognition of something sacred. And a lot of the rituals of religion and spirituality are ways of performing certain activities so that the activity itself becomes transparent to the deeper transcendent reality that is actually happening right under the surface appearance of things. And yet, the danger of overly ritualizing. Now, when I was in Zen, I got so much of a lot of the rituals, and anybody that reads about Zen Buddhism, you read about all these sort of dynamic and wild and very much out-of-the-box Zen teachers. It's very much part of the tradition that most all the greatest Zen masters were not people, we're not men and women who fit nicely into any conventional box, even the conventional boxes of Buddhism, or even how people would see that Zen is supposed to be carried out. They were really free beings, and you read lots of stories and you get this sense, as I did when I was young and starting to read some of these stories. And then the strange thing is, then you go to a Zen temple, and you realize that it's very, very different than what you imagined, because Zen is a highly ritualized form of spirituality, right down to the way that when you go to retreats, the whole meal it's a ritual. Every bite you take is done in a ritual way. The way you take the food, is done in a ritual way. The way that you clean your bowls after you eat is all done to a ritualistic way, and it all includes various chants that go along with it. And it's actually a very elegant and beautiful way to have a meal, actually. And so some of these rituals I found to be really, really quite beautiful. And yet the whole environment is so ritualized that it doesn't really equate with a lot of, the stories that are told of these very freewheeling Zen masters. And yet the beauty of that is you come to realize that until we can find freedom within form, within structure, if we only experience freedom when we're free from structure, meaning when we're on our own, when we get to be doing our thing, whatever we want to be doing, when we're just meditating and no other demand is being made upon us, it can be easier to come into a sense of expanded, open, free sense of being. So to be free within the formless, in the lack of form, is one thing. But to find freedom in form, because most of daily living is one form or another. To go to work is a form, it's a structure, there's a schedule to it. And if you look at so much of our waking hours, they're just one form after another, one structure that we're negotiating after another. And this is where people find it so challenging, is how can I find that same freedom within the form and structure that's inherent in daily living? And I think this is a deep and profound question. And so I know in Zen, where so much of your daily living becomes ritualized, it's a way of trying to show you there is a way of being, which is really, the ritual part isn't nearly as important as the presence, as the heightened state of consciousness, the heightened awareness that you must be in a certain sense to even perform the ritual. The danger, of course, is that your life can become overly ritualized, it's regimented. And so I think that it's extremely important that we begin to realize that within the structure and form of daily life, that we find freedom there, because there is freedom there. There's no lack of freedom in the world of form and structure.